Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 190. Now I've really got back into it this week, which has been awesome. I've made lots of progress on Tawny as well, but as I said last week, I was starting to remember that do a little bit and you get a lot done, and so rather than feeling overwhelmed, what I did was when I wanted a break from working, I decided to do a couple of minutes of hobbying, and that's how I got so much done this week, which is really, really awesome. I hope you enjoy the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I have had a couple of suggestions for names for my Warg, and I meant to write them down and have them with me now when I do the intro. I will do that in the outro, so I'll let you know what ideas I've had so far in the outro. More ideas required. I only had a couple. Just pop a comment in the comments below with a name for the Warg that Gibbet or Gibber or however you want to pronounce his name is going to be riding, and I will pick my favourite one and that will be painted onto the rim, and I will thank you very much for that. So anyway, I'll stop rambling now. I hope you enjoy the video. I've enjoyed this week. I hope you enjoy watching what I got up to, and thanks very much for watching. So a little while ago I made a puppet theatre with Rosie. And I've just been tidying up a big pile of cardboard, and I've come across this, which is actually one of the boxes for one of our toilets. And I've thought that I could make out of this the style of puppet theatre that she was actually wanting to have. She wants to be able to go inside, so a hole in the bottom coming up, and then do her puppeteering actually from underneath with it completely enclosed, so not like I've done in the other one where there's no backdrop. She wants an actual backdrop, which is why she was painting the backdrop for the original one and why we got confused. So what I'm doing right now is removing some of the tape, the old tape, and the reason I'm doing that is that we have some old some of these staples which I really need to get rid of because I don't want her to scratch herself or anything. So I'm just going around making sure there are no staples left that are exposed. And then once I've done that, what I'll do is I'll start to cut holes in it. My plan is, this is my plan is to let her, when she gets back, do the painting of the backdrop with Angela. And so I've got some cardboard which has just had a shot over there, which I will cut to size, and that will be able to fold inside this box, and then I will basically seal it up and then cut the view hole once that's all done. So what I'm going to do for now is tidy it up, get it ready, work it out, make my plans, and then finish it off when they get home, which is going to be in a couple of weeks time. So I'm going to keep going with this. It's a bit noisy, so I won't film it all. Basically removing the sellotape anywhere where the sellotape is on the outside, and we've got these nasty, I don't know actually if you can properly see, but there are some really nasty, you can't, oh I'm moving the wrong way. Yeah, some really nasty staples sticking out here, so I really need to get them out. Here we are. Let's do that. There we are. You can see that there. They're really nasty. Anyway, going to crack on with that, and I will bring you back for the next step when I get to it, which will be probably cutting holes in the bottom and just making sure it all works together. So I found my box. It's an old Games Workshop Ruins of Dol Guldur, and the base has some cool runes around it, and is also a good size. So if we have a look at the picture and we have a look at the size of my miniature, I'm going to be able to do quite a good amount of trees around the back of it. It's going to work pretty well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of these offcuts, which I have had lying around for ages and I was going to throw away just the other day. And I'm going to basically cut them to size to fit in here using the Proxon, and then glue them in and make a lasagna type, because mainly it's going to be a very, very small amount of kind of shaping for the path, and then I'm going to use modelling compound to build up most of the contours anyway. So I'm going to measure the inside of this and make sure that I cut all of these exactly the right size as best as I can, and then I will show you how I go about doing the gluing when I get to it. So I'm just going to go now and quickly get that done. need to get back into hobbying, and as you all know, the best way to do stuff is to just do a little bit at a time, and this is going to take me a few minutes, and then I can leave it overnight under weights, and then tomorrow I can come along and do another little step and then another little step, and that is the way you get lots done. Right, so as it happened, I ended up using my safety ruler and my alpha blade to do that, because the dimensions were just a bit too big for reliable cutting on the on the hot wire cutter, and also none of these were square so I had to kind of get my set square, which is also another useful tool, square them off, and then I was able to fit it in, as you can see, and that looks great. Now I've gone for 3 levels, with a little bit less, with not quite going right up to the top, because I'm going to do model and compound, like I say. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this in place using my super sticky glue. So we're just going to put a bead around here, and then a bit of a squiggle. There we are. I'm going to put the first level in. And then I'll keep doing the same thing, and we'll just put weights on this and leave it overnight, and then tomorrow I can come in and start to build up the modelling compound and think about the trees and the rocks and other fun things like that. And then I'm going to have to work out how I'm going to do a mouse which is going to be fun as well. As you can see, I'm not worried about the fact that these don't fully fill the box. There's little gaps either side, because the top one does, and even if that caused a problem, then the modelling compound would act as a filler as well around the sides. So yeah, here's my box, and it's going to be the mouse's encounter with the Gruffalo that will be going on this. Wasn't too sure about this challenge when it was first announced. I actually thought I might not enter at all. But now, as is often the case when initially you're not very excited about something, now I actually am quite excited. Right, I'm going to grab myself some weights. What I use is they're just in the corner. And they're really useful. So these are big joints, so they're carpentry heavy steel squares, and I use them because they're really useful, because you can fit them in like so, and that will be enough to weight this down and keep it flat. So I'll leave that overnight, and then when I get a minute, hopefully I'll get some time tomorrow, we'll start looking at the next step. Alright, so they've glued in nice and securely. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, and this will be covered up of course, but I'm going to mock out roughly where things are going to go. So he is the Gruffalo is going to be there, and that means the path is going to do this. It's going to come in from here, and it's going to go off around and back, and then it's going to come around here. There'll be a tree there, and it'll do something like that. So that's roughly what the path is going to look like. And what we'll have is have a tree there, a tree there, a tree there, and then some smaller trees here, and a tree there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big trees. Now what I have here is what I'm going to use, certainly for that tree and potentially for this tree as well, as the basis for the trunk, because I will then blend it with the air dry clay. Now I might look for a slightly thinner one than this, but this is basically the idea. So we'll stick this down and then put the air dry clay on over the top of this, and that will then make a tree, and I'll obviously seal the top as well. So I should be able to cut that. If we look at the size, I should be able to cut that in half So that should do both of those, and I need to find another one like that, which I'm sure I've got upstairs, to do this one here, and then I'm going to need to have some smaller ones, and I'm not sure what I'll use for those, but I'll work it out to do these 3 trees. In terms of the rest of the layout of it, we have this little tree here, and I can reach over and I have one of these, so that will be absolutely fine. And then the rocks I'll do with either the modelling compound or something like that as well. So there's actually only 1 or 2, there's another one there in this corner. There's 2 of these little evergreens which I'll put in. Still haven't looked at the mouse. I will get to it. I have done some sculpting in the past. I'm not great at it, but I will give it a go. So yeah, anyway, so I'll get that done. I'm going to look to cut this down and stick this in place. I'll bring you along when I get to that. When I get that done, so I'll just cut it down and try and find the correct sizes for these trunks, and then I'll bring you back when I've got that all cut and ready to glue, and I'll show you how I'm going to stick those in place. So I managed to find another length of the same type of pipe, and I actually just put it through the my table saw so that I can cut it perfectly flush and square, and that worked really well. Made a horrible noise, but it worked well. Probably blunted the blade a bit, but never mind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick these down in place. For the smaller trees, I've had to go for one of these dowels, which is a shame because they're quite expensive, but I don't have anything to hand which is going to do that. I did look at a bit of ducting that I had, but it's a bit flexible and it's not really the right size. So I will also cut that down to the same length, which is 14 centimeters, 140mm, and stick those in place as well. And then when these have gone off, I will come along with the modelling compound and model it, seal the base, build the base up, and then, I didn't do that very well, and then the rest of the roots and what have you I will then sculpt on top of the modelling compound. So there we are. So I'll get this glued in place like that, then let it set, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. Well, I managed to get my gibber painted up correctly, and happy with how he looks. Didn't take very long. And I also managed to get the 2 wargs, so they'll dismount wargs. Now, I have had one suggestion in last week's vlog. If you're watching this as part of the build video, then it's too late. But I'm asking people to give me ideas and suggestions for the name of the warg. So one person so far, as I record this, has suggested a name for the warg. So don't be shy. If you're watching this in the vlog, then pop a comment below with a suggestion. But what I'm just doing there is sticking gibber onto his warg, so that is going to certainly be good enough for me. And what I'll then need to do is get the bases done. Now, when I did these, I've put skulls on, and I don't know whether I've still got any of those skulls left, which is a shame, so I might not be able to exactly match the basing styles, but it will just be a case of using some gravel and what have you. It might even be, I think, a from Geek Gaming, so I'll have a look at that anyway, but I'm going to need to wait for him to dry. I will need to have a name soon enough because I need to paint it on the base, but I can leave that till right towards the end of going to ArdaCon, so there'll be a few weeks to give me ideas, and I'll try and remember to mention it in every vlog. So yeah, anyway, there we are. That's cool. Pretty pleased with that. So next up, once he's dried, is going to be basing these 2, which I'll show you how I do it when I get to it. So these are now nicely dried in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an initial skim of the modelling compound around the edge of the path, so everywhere where the path isn't. Let that go off, and then what I'll do is I will start to build up the stones and rocks and what have you, and also do the path as well. But I want to make sure that the path stays obvious because I'm pretty happy with the shape of it. So just going to mix up some modelling compound. That might be too much, but I'm not sure. Let's make slightly less. and make us a modelling compound and just smooth it in all around here. And then once that's done, as I say, I'll do build up the rocks, and I'm also going to do the air dry clay when that's dried, and then I will do the rest of the modelling compound. So I'll just chuck some music on. You've seen this many times, and get this done. You can watch how I do it, but listen to some nice music, and then we'll let that go off, as I say. So yeah, enjoy the music. It's time for me to do the basing on these two. So I've decided to go for the arid grasslands base ready, because I think it's going to be closest to what I've got there. I have not found any more skulls, unfortunately, so that is going to have to be missed out upon on this base, which is really annoying because I do like to do things the same, and if I do manage to get some more or find some, so I think I printed those, I can't remember, maybe I had them sent to me actually. So I have no idea where I got them from anyway. So we're going to make use of the fast drying basing glue, as I always do, and it's all stuck together. It's because I've used this toothpick before. So what I do is I take a toothpick and spread out along the base with a toothpick. You can use a brush, but bear in mind that it will absolutely destroy the brush. So a toothpick is better because it won't destroy the toothpick, and you can get multiple goes with it. And then once you've got a good base, just like throw it in there, cover it entirely, shake it off, and there you are, it is based. So I'm going to do both of those, and once that's done, then we'll paint the rim, and hopefully then we'll have a name for the Warg. So yeah, if you're watching this in the vlog, do leave below what you think you would call him. It'd be awesome to have some more ideas. Well, this packing has been fun, and as you can see, this is my carry-on luggage, and I've very much had to book another bag for checked luggage so I can take everything with me, which is a pain because it cost them over €100, but never mind. So what I've done is I had a lot of trouble with the Warbats, and actually broke the first one I tried to put into one of the other KR multi cases, and then I remembered I had one of these citadels, and it has this kind of concertina style, and so I was able, as you can see here, if I can get this off without breaking anything, this is a bit odd, I think I'll put it upside down. I have, oh dear, right, that's not so clever. I've put them in here upside down. So I'll have to sort that out. But anyway, so I've managed to get quite a lot of these put in, and also some of the other figures that I need to take. So there's a bulk. So that's good. So I've actually ordered another one of these cases, which will come with hopefully the same insert. If it doesn't, then at least I've got this one to go in it. So that should be arriving soon. Got that from Element Games. They shipped it next day and it arrived. Inside this multi-case, I don't know, as you can see, I've just used folded things. Now this is where I've put my eagles. So there's Bayonne, and the eagles are in there. So I did a little bit of plucking on this, and they fit in really, really nicely. So I'm not going to disturb that because that took some time. And then over in this one, we have more folded stuff. We have a couple more eagles, and this is where the new Warg rider will go, and this is the Wargs. I have damage on this one, I've just noticed, so that might need to be swapped out. That's Lizard. He does not have his sword, so I might need to swap him out, or I might just go with the broken model and no one will notice. It's just for the Chaos in Arda, that, so it doesn't matter. But these are my
Dice of Death that I'm giving away to people. And yeah, I've got space in there, as you can see, for the extra models that I'm painting and finishing up right now. So I have managed to get everything fitted into 4 boxes, because obviously I've got another box coming. I really have picked difficult miniatures to transport, and that is now now paying the price for that. Particularly these warbats are a pain, but those conversions for eagles are really difficult to transport as well. So hopefully everything gets there safely, and hopefully have fun. It's just under a month now until the tournament, getting quite excited. So yeah, I said I'd show you the packing, so there it is. Finally back to this after a bit of a break. So the next step is to get B2, which is this bit, and then B3, B4, and B5, and B1. So we've got B1, we've got B2, B3, B4 and B5. So it's all these things together. And what you're going to do is we're going to take this side bit off, and then we're going to pop out each of these, and then they go actually inside like this to and it actually tells you the order. So do B1 first, then clamp B2, then clamp B3, then clamp B4, and then finally do that there. So it does show you the order in which you're going to do them, and then slide B5 down in the middle, and that should work. So I'm going to work through these next steps. I will get these popped out, and then I'll probably turn the camera back on when I'm actually going to start gluing them in, just to show, or at least dry fit them, just to show how that works. And then I'll clamp them using one of my many clamps. It does show using closed pegs, which is obviously another option. So yeah, so I'll get these popped out, and then bring it back when I come to gluing them in place once I've done some dry fitting. Well, that went together really nicely. I've not cut B5 out yet because it's the last one to go in, but I have dry fitted all the other pieces, and it's quite obvious the order that they need to go in, because as you can see here, for example, that kind of like marries up like that. So what I'm going to do now is glue it in place. So for that, I've got just some normal PVA on my plate, just out of shot. And I'm going to put a thin coat over the bit that's going to be touching it's going to actually be up against the outer wall. So I think that's going to be useful. And you don't need much glue for PVA. Actually, more glue sometimes means it doesn't dry. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put some on the sides, which are going to end up being butted against other things. So that will be on the wall floor, and then the other walls will impact there. So then we can slide that in and down, and then get a clamp or 2 or 3. This is why I have so many clamps. And then what we'll do is we'll put this one in next, because this is one we need to go in next, so we'll do the same thing. And I'll work my way around, and then when they're all on, I will then leave it for a day to dry and come back potentially tomorrow and do the next bit. I've not done as much on this as I thought I would, mainly for tourney reasons. Been crazy busy on that. But this evening I didn't want to work, so I've made time to do some hobbying. Fed up of staring at a computer, frankly. So yeah, so I'll get the rest of this done, which will basically be what you've just seen, and I'll bring you back when I get to the next step. Alright, so that's now all dry. I actually had a phone call, my daily call with Andrew and Rosie during the last video, which is why you might have seen it pause. And in that brief conversation, all of my modelling compound went off. I had to try and save it again. Anyway, managed to, got it all done. So what I'm going to do now is actually what I probably should have done before. I'm going to mask off around the sides of this, because the next thing I'm going to be doing is the air dried clay, and that is almost certainly going to be a very messy process. It often is. So I'm just going to quickly mask the box, because I can probably quite easily rub off the modelling compound, but air dry clay will make much more of a stain. So yeah, and then I'm going to start working on the on the trees, on the clay for the trees, which is going to be the longest process of this whole thing. I do also still need to sculpt my mouse, and I still haven't even thought about it. But I'll get there, don't worry. Anyway, so I'll get this done, get this all masked off, and I'll bring you back when I get to the clay work. Alright, let's see how much mess this makes. So I've got some air dry clay, and I've got a bath full of water here, a little tub full of water, because you need to keep your fingers very moist on this. And the other thing you need is PVA, which I'd forgotten about until just that second. So I'm going to grab my little plate for PVA. And what I am going to do is put the book away so I don't accidentally get it covered in air dry clay, because that would be a tragedy. The reason why you need to have PVA is, as I always say when I'm doing this, clay is not sticky, it's not an adhesive, so a little bit of PVA painted on will then mean it actually sticks to whatever it is that you're attempting to make it stick to. So just paint a bit of PVA on your target object, and then you can go to town with your air dry clay. If you forget this process, it can quite easily flake off. It won't necessarily if it's got its enough integrity in itself to stay on, then it won't fall off. But this is just a little bit of like comfort, or just making absolutely sure that it will definitely not fall apart. With PVA isn't very much to add, is it? So camera battery's dying, so I'm going to change the battery on the camera, and then when I'll put it on with some music, and you can watch as I do this sculpting. So what we've got here is the front of the theatre, and I'm going to start cutting or drawing at first, and then cutting away at this to make a opening at the front, which I don't think I'm going to do too big. I'm actually considering doing 2 openings with a gap in the middle, so she can maybe do 2 scenes. I'm not sure. Can always be cut down more when she gets here and sees it. And then at the bottom, what I'm thinking of doing is having a slot at the front and a slot at the back, so she can put like her hands through in different areas. So that's the idea. So as you can see, I've got my straight edge, I've got a pen, I've got a sharp knife. I'm not sure if I'm going to start cutting today. What I am going to do is start drawing on it, working out where things are going to go, roughly, just getting some ideas. I'll be heading to the shops tomorrow, and I'm going to be buying a few supplies for this project, which you'll have to wait and see. It won't take long for you to see it. I'm not going to say, just in case I fail. So yeah, so as I say, I'm just going to sketch on it, I'm going to make some ideas, make some plans. I'm not going to worry too much about cutting just yet. I want to see what it looks like, and then when I've done my drawing and I've got a shape on here that I'm happy with, then I can start to cut things out. So I'm not going to run the camera when I'm doing this, because I'm probably going to stop a lot and mutter and don't know, but I'll show you what it looks like when I finish doing the drawing. Well, I've come up with an idea, and I actually think it's quite a good one. What I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along here, 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 here and here, and have like a door, try and have it so it's an opening door. I'm not sure it's going to work. If it doesn't work, then I'll cut the doors off and work something else out. But I was thinking this is quite strong cardboard. I can probably reinforce it with some more cardboard, and have a little kind of like, have it so that she can open the doors and then close the doors when she's finished her little show. So yes, that's my plan. I was going to try and do a curve, but I'm not capable of doing that, and I don't have the tools easily to hand to do that reliably. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm going to cut this now. I might do. I haven't yet worked on the bottom. I'm still thinking whether I'm going to have 2 slots. I do think it makes some sense to have 2 slots, but I think I'm going to cut this out now and then have a look and see what it looks like. So these are such good safety rulers. I really like them. I would recommend them very highly. I have a lot of them. This is going to make a lot of noise, so I'll probably put some music on while I'm doing the cutting. There we are. So let's see how well that opens. Not so bad at all. Not so bad at all, there we are. So we'll probably need to have some way of keeping it open. That might be the one issue with this. But yeah, that's awesome. Right, I'm going to have a look at the bottom now and work out about these accesses, cut them out, and then I'm going to have to wrap this for now because, well, I need to get some stuff which I'm going to hopefully pick up tomorrow. So as you can see, I've marked and cut out the front slot, and what I've realised is that inside we've got the tabs, which I'm going to also need to cut out, but that's also going to help me get a little bit more structural integrity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this shape out here just like this, which isn't all that hard, as you can see. I've already made some partial cuts along this side just because it was so close when I was cutting the top bit out. And then what I'll do is, I think I am going to do the back slot as well. Once I've done both slots, I will then get some PVA glue, wood glue, and weights, and glue the remainder of these tabs to the bottom of the box, because this is the bottom, and then that's where I'll leave it. So once I've done the cutting and once I'm about to do the weighting down, I will turn the camera back on. But as you can see, having a good knife makes all the difference. It's not the hardest thing in the world to cut through this cardboard with a good knife. And there we are. So like I say, I'll bring you back when I've done all the cutting out and I'm about to do the gluing. So this is not going to be all that easy to film, but I can give it a go. So as you can see, we've got this cut out now. So what I need to do is get my PVA glue in this area here and back here, and back here and up here, and up here. There we are. And then I've got a brush, so I'm going to smear it out. Make sure I get it all the way. This is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And then once I've smeared it all around, I'll put my weights on top that I've got here. Oh, this is a big box. Yeah, got enough PVA, don't need any more. So I'll press that down. A little bit more here. Yeah, so I'll press that down like that and then weight them down. And I may need to get some more weight. That was hard work. I'm going to do the rest of it off camera and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all dried. Well, this has sat for a little bit, so I really should do something about it. I've got very, very little of my terrain glue left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scatter my sand on now, again for the second time. So I won't film all of it, but this is basically the same thing as we did before. And then once that's dried, then I'll start painting it and adding the final details. So we're not actually far off on this. These techniques are very, very simple, and very quick. So yeah, paint the PVA on, get your sand, scatter your sand on, tip your sand off, done. So I'll finish it off now and then bring you along for the painting when I'm ready, when that's dried. I will seal this again with the same glue, but I probably won't film that. Alright, so the next thing to do on these two is to seal it. So I have some of Luke's glue that he sells as sealant. He sells it in spray things, but I've never got them to work, so I always brush them on. So I'm going to quickly just paint this all over, let that dry, and then what I'll do is I'll paint the rims in the same red as on the other ones, and then hopefully we'll have a few more suggestions for names for the Warg, and then I'll be able to paint his name on and then put him in the box ready for transport. So there we are, we'll let that dry and I'll also seal the other one. And I'll bring you back when I'm ready to paint the name on. So please do suggest some names if you're watching this in the vlog. Well, I managed to get them hung, which I'm really pleased with, and I think that just looks lovely. I'm so happy with that. So what I did was I got my drill and I got a couple of dowels, you know, like the ones you get in flat pack furniture. Drilled a hole in the wall, hammered the dowel in the wall, and then hammered my picture hanger hook thing into that, and it worked. I stole the idea from my builders. That's what they do all the time, but they carve a bit of wood down and use that. That's how they do it, but yeah, that's worked really well. So there we are. I'm not sure if there's going to be another picture to go up on the left. I don't have one right now, but yeah, pretty pleased with that. So a few months before my father passed away, my dad passed away, his mum passed away, and I didn't want much. I wanted to remember, obviously, but there was a lot of stuff in the house. But the thing that I wanted, she had this awesome collection of thimbles, which you can see now spread out on these bits of board. And I've also have saved a newspaper article with her obituary, and also the funeral thing. So unfortunately I wasn't at the funeral, but I did manage to get over to see her and spend a week with her in the hospice, and that actually was the last time I saw my dad alive as well. It was a pretty harsh emotional period of my life because yeah, not long after that, not long after I saw my nan for the last time and my dad for the last time, I didn't know it, Rosie was born, and then a few days later my dad died. So yeah, it was a pretty horrendous and awesome mixed emotional chaos. Anyway, that's enough of that. That was pretty hefty. So for a long time I wanted to get these up on the wall, and what I wanted to do and what I plan to do is put them up between my bookshelves here in the library. So I've got a space there and I've got a space there in between the other shelf. And I've measured, and these bits of wood, which I had my eye on to do this, are actually the perfect width, which is great. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to trim each down to the same size. I'm going to drill pilot holes in this board so the screws can be countersunk. Then I will offer them up against the wall and drill through or mark through each of the holes, and then drill in dowels and then screw these into the wall. And then when they're up, I will lay out I will attach the actual display things here onto the wood. I'll do that last, and the newspaper cutting and the funeral booklet I'm going to get framed, and then they will also get hung once that's done. Now the reason why I want to put these onto wood is a couple of reasons, one of which you can see that there's power. So up there is the junction, that's where the power goes acrosswards there, and then it goes down to my socket. So I don't really want to be hammering into there, so this will allow me to fit these in there without risking electrocution or fire risk. So yeah, I'm going to go into the time. I'm not going to do much filming of this. I just wanted to talk through it because it is partly kind of hobby, I suppose. It fits in a little bit. So I'm going to measure this up, go and cut this bit of wood now, and I'll bring you along for a bit of it, show you what's going on. But hopefully today, my plan is to get this job done. It's another one that I've been putting off for years, literally. She passed away nearly 5 years ago. So yeah, 2019, 4 years. January 2019 is when she passed away. So yeah, 4.5 years ago. How time flies. Anyway, yeah, I'll bring you back when I've got a little bit further on. Well, here we are. I was successful at the shops yesterday, which was really good. So what I've got is I've got some self-adhesive actually, though I'm probably going to use glue as well. Gold, shiny gold, and I've got a roll of red. So this is how I'm going to clad the outside and probably some of the inside as well. Though of course I do have this here which will be painted on by them. So I'm going to do as much of the outside as I can in gold, and I'm going to do the inside of the front in red, so the inside of the doors will be red, so when they open that will look really cool. And anything that I can't do in gold, because I bought the shop out, that's all they had, it won't be enough. I will then do the rest, probably the sides and the back in the red and the front in gold, and that's going to be my plan. I also got some heavy duty wallpaper adhesive and a roller, so that's how I'm going to stick it on, that's how I'm going to glue it on. So yeah, I've got about a week until Rosie gets back. It would be awesome if this was done. I do have some other thoughts about this. I'm considering putting it on wet legs, so that's another thing that I might do, so that she can actually sit underneath it and then put a skirt around it so that she can be hidden. So yeah, a couple more things to do, but other than that, it's pretty much as far as I can get it before they get back and can do the painting on this awesome backdrop thing, and then I can actually seal it and close it off and finish off doing the wrapping. So yeah, pretty pleased I was able to find that. I couldn't find any gold paper and then suddenly found this, which was more in an art supply area. So pretty happy with that. I will get myself ready and then we'll start wallpapering. Well, there we are. As I say, back to a bit more of a normal week for me, about 40-minute long video, which is a little bit more my regular length as opposed to the 5, 10, 15-minute ones I've been doing recently. I have remembered to write down the suggestions I had for the Warg name. So Lekdog suggested Droopy, which I think is really cool, and Chris, Great Mim, suggested Mungo, which I also really like. So I've had a couple of suggestions, like I say. If any of you want to pop one in the comments below, I would really appreciate it. I've got a couple of weeks left while I'll be waiting to collect all these suggestions, and then that'll be the last thing I'll do. We'll paint the name onto the rim. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, particularly if you got this far. Leave a comment below even if you don't have an idea for a dog name. They always really inspires me, every single comment I receive, so yeah, much appreciated. I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do, thank you for watching, and at the moment I'm still saying it because it's still going on, and if any of you are impacted, whether it is directly or indirectly by the horrific war in Ukraine, then my thoughts do go out to you and anyone you know who might be in that horrible situation. And to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.